Evening all. This is Khushbu from Harmonica Ecumentis from Product Management team. We welcome you all for this webinar. Let me introduce Dr. Sadhna. She's a brilliant academician and clinician dedicated to women health since 35 years. Her dedication is evident from her achievements not only pan-India but international platforms as well. To say briefly, I present to you her CV. Her major achievements: she is Foxy representative of CEPOC 2018-20, AICOG Governor Council member. She is Vice President Foxy 2016, Chairperson of Foxy Safe Motherhood Committee 2011-2014, and Founder President Gorakhpur Chapter ISOPA RB 2020. Present designation she is handling is Director and Senior Consultant in Jyoti Hospital with Gorakhpur. Academic honor, she has been awarded by many awards. Thrice Dr. D.C. Datta Prize for Best Foxy Publication, 4 times Best Research Paper Award in AICOG. She has awarded by social and organizational events as well. Dr. Mehru, Dr. Dhurusha, Dr. R.N. Malhotra Awards, and so on. The list is endless, ma'am. So, and she has been a part of many publications as well. At 20 original research publications she has done. She has been a coordinator of maternal mortality workshops and conferences and workshops and many projects. And she is taking part in she is basically standing up for next year Foxy president. So I hope you all please vote for her and support her. I welcome Dr. Sadhna. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Khushbu. It is for your kind introduction and all the best wishes. And I welcome all the very esteemed panelists who have got. I've gone.
Ma'am, Dr. Vidya is here.
Dr. Vidya, welcome. So we start our panel on the management issue of the fibroid. So I welcome all the panelists and let me introduce my all esteemed panelists to the audience. So first, our first person. So please share the screen in the same order. Dr. Vidya Thobi, yes. Dr. Vidya Thobi is professor and head department, Bijapur Medical College. She is at present chairperson, Food and Drug Medico Surgical Committee. And she is national corresponding editor, Jogi, and organizing chairperson, Karnataka Society of OB-GYN Conference 2016, and academic council member in the Women University. She has been a teacher for 30 years for undergraduate and postgraduate teaching. We welcome you, Vidya, for your all support in getting this CME ICOG credit point and all. We will look forward to see your expert comments. Our next panelist is change the slide, Khushbu. The next panelist is, change the slide, please. Dr. Charmila, yes, Dr. Charmila Ayo. She is one of the dedicated Foxian, has been chairperson of Clinical Research Committee as well as recipient of the best committee chairperson on the same year. And she is the president of Menstrual Hygiene Management Consortium, which is a big issue, consultant to Southern Railway Hospital, Trichy, and awarded Shri Mohanlal Desai Prize for standing first, organizing secretary Yuva Foxy South Zone 2013, and has won many trophies for her Trichy society. So dedication of the Charmila is well known in Foxy, and we could have darshan of Shri Rangaji at 2013. And we really have this thing in memory because it is through you that the blessing of Lord comes to us. So thank you, Charmila, for being here. The next panelist is our next panelist. Please skip the yes. Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Sheshadri, who is Vice President OGSSI, Chairperson Research Committee IMS, Member Quiz Committee Foxy, awarded many Best Paper Awards, wrote chapter in the many books, and the special interest is high risk obstetrics and midlife health. So we welcome you, Vidya, very good friend, very kind hearted person. Next panelist, may I have the other slide? Dr. Indrani Roy, a beautiful figure and from the beautiful place. She is senior consultant and HOD of Gynae, Nazrat Hospital, Shillong. She has been president of Shillong OB-GYN Society 2017 to 2019, and organizing chairperson is Joan Yuva Foxy 2019. Few of the last travels which we have done in the beautiful place, and we look forward to such travel in near future. Next panelist, Dr. Rashmi Vyas. She has been organizing chairperson Norjon Yuva Foxy in 2019, invited faculty in many national conference, life member of many association, and executive council member of Society of Fetal Medicine, Clinical Research Committee, and Adolescent Health Committee of Foxy. A very humble person and very, very cooperative person. We look forward to many key messages from all the panelists. Next, please. Next, Dr. Sabita Agrawal. He is the director of Srijan Vatsalya Hospital, and to her very credit, she has built a middle school in a remote village to enhance level of education in rural areas. And this is the thing actually which inspire others, and how our members are doing in other fields. Honored by Dainik Jagran for her health and wellness contribution. She has been organizing secretary of Hysteroscopy Conference and executive member of Allahabad OB-GYN Society, and the regional chairperson, Lions Club International. Thank you, Sabita, to be here. And last, she is a young gynecologist, and she is like in the one webinar on the working woman. What is the problem of working women? She will just join us. And see her, she is a young consultant in the BLK Hospital, New Delhi. High risk pregnancy, critical care, and minimal invasive areas are her area of special interest. She has been awarded by Wonder Foxy and Global Youth Orphan Award. And the one appreciation that she is a writer and she is a blogger for many newspapers. So as soon as she joined, we look forward to many extra, what is we can see beyond science in the human beings, and such person really contribute to see the patient, people, and the family and the community as a whole. So thank you all the panelists, and I'm starting my panel and sharing the slides.
You can share the slides.
Yes, I am.
Dr. Vidya is also here, ma'am. We welcome her.
We have already welcomed Vidya. So we are really, Vidya, can you, can we have your voice, Vidya? Vidya? Dr. Vidya Thobi is there.
Yeah, and yes. My net is little shaky, but I will definitely, I am very glad that ultimately I could join you.
So we are listening your voice very clearly, Vidya.
Yeah,
so net is problem.
Because I have joined through my mobile. I tried 1, 3, 4 means laptop, mobile, but I could ultimately join you.
So we waited for you because you are the one of
Thank you.
If there is problem in internet, then keep your video off, but we want to listen your voice. So,
that I will do. I will make my video off and I'll talk because sometimes it is shaky.
Yes.
Yeah.
So fibroid management, a very common problem which we see at least 7 to 8 cases in our busy OPD. But still there is a lot of confusion, and in coming 1 hour panel, we will set to give some very clear message how to individualize and optimize fibroid management. We welcome our all esteemed panelists and with the thanks to be here. So we all know they are the monoclonal tumors, and the clinical presentation, it is classic menorrhagia, mass, pelvic pain, infertility, and obstetrical complication. And these are age, genetic factors, some risk factor which we as OB-GYN, we know all. So what is the problem? They are the most common pelvic benign tumor in the woman, and up to 60% of reproductive age women are affected. And when we have the transvaginal ultrasound, it can reach up to 80%. And only in third of patient, myoma becomes symptomatic. So this is one very important. And we still, with all our knowledge and technology, still we don't know why women develop myoma and why they grow at different rates. So question of this panel, of our discussion is that it is era of humanization of medical care. Patients don't want radical treatment. Patients don't want surgeries. And
we want to see the slides.
We can't see the slides, ma'am.
But do something.
We have to share the slides.
आप बताइए screening share pause कर दिया है. Something they are not. I'm just looking what you are not able to see the slide.
Yeah, we are not able to see the slides.
Khushbu, please see to it. Khushbu, please see to it. If आपने pause किया है इसको. You have paused it. आपने pause किया. Khushbu, please see to it. So, should I again try? क्या करना है? Khushbu, please see to it. Can you see now?
We can see you, but not slides.
No.
Slides we cannot see.
No.
Okay.
No slides.
No. I'm seeing in my laptop, so I was going fast.
No, you are not sharing the screen. That share screen option. Now it is. You are.
It is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So why the Myanmar? So I think yes. So we are coming. We don't know with all our technology that why women develop Myanmar, why they grow at different rates, but it is approximately constitute to 30% of all hysterectomies. So it is era of humanization of medical care, and we have to save the uterus, which our Foxy says, people says, and we also think on the same line. So we will start. Anybody can take the question, and Vidya, we will come to you either in the beginning or in the end. So we will start with the Charmila. I think she has been a clinical research committee chair. You perceive a real change in incidence of fibroid and
Yes.
incidental fibroid, or it has been the same and we are diagnosing more. So Charmila, you are the
Madam, it is actually both. There are the fibroid incidence has increased, as well as we're diagnosing also more compared to 20 years before. We're doing too many ultrasounds, and you're doing ultrasound for adolescents, reproductive age, perimenopausal, and you pick up more of fibroids, which are quite incidental also. And we see an increase also because the number of children that the women are bearing is coming down, and probably that's causing an increase in the number of fibroids. And women are getting married later, and they come with reproductive problems. And when we do scans, we see lots of fibroids. There is both. There's both an increase as well as the diagnosis also is much better because you got much better technology now.
So thank you very much, because we are having more girls which we are not seeing in the previously our gynae OPD. They are coming to us and we are getting USG and we are diagnosing. Any other panelists want to add to this?
I think as we speak of fibroids in a higher age group, probably we are seeing more also because we are not really going in for a complete curative treatment right in the beginning. So even those small fibroids are growing because we have become a little more conservative on the management. And that is why probably we are discussing the medical management today. But because we, like earlier, after they have completed their family, we would do myomectomy or hysterectomy fast. But nowadays, no, even the patients are not desirous and we are also not doing. So perhaps even postmenopausal age group or perimenopausal, we are seeing even more number of people who are persisting with fibroids.
So
and we have made them sure that they are not malignant and all those knowledge.
Yes. Thank you, Vidya.
And I want to add, and I just want to add that around, if you see the incidence around 40%, I always see 40% about over the age of 40 have uterine fibroids. So if you see the Indian population might be around 15 million Indian women would have fibroids. So this is whatever the current incidence of
it is same.
fibroids.
You have given Vidya as an expert a correct figure. It is on up to 15 to 25 million Indian women have the fibroid uterus. So magnitude is that high. And this is some basic fact I will rush through, that what caused the decreased rates. It is increased parity, but we really want women to have not many children. Late menarche and early menopause is issue. Smoking decrease risk, but we don't wish the women to smoke and use the potent contraceptive, and increase risk is
No, Sadhna, I think it is also early menarche which causes more.
Yes.
And now we are seeing early menarcheal ages. People are, girls are becoming mature even much earlier.
Yes.
So perhaps that's
And
also an issue they are exposed to.
and obesity is also on the high. And this is, so these are the basic facts which as a OB-GYN we know, and the additional environmental factor, diet, vitamin D deficiency, environmental toxins. And you see, we fruits, vegetable and low-fat dairy products, they are also associated with reduced risk. So healthy diet is for all the pathologies. So clinical presentation, we know what it is and what is intramural, subserous and submucous. So our stage is the world is demanding medical treatment. They don't want costly and invasive treatment. And as a doctor, we have to tailor and individualize the personal treatment goal and efficacy and need for repeated intervention. This is the time. For years together, we searched for medical treatment and homeopathy gave some option, but we didn't have. So this is the time to make a difference from our side and the individualization. So coming to first case,
Sadhna, before proceeding, just in case, like we are used to saying subserous, intramural and transmural or submucous, but now how many of us really stick to the FIGO classification as well, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah,
because probably since the time hysteroscopy has taken over, they have started depending more on the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so that they have a complete guideline on trying to manage these surgical managements when we talk about. So I think FIGO classification becomes...
two things, the FIGO classification of fibroid as well as the FIGO classification, palm coin classification for the abnormal uterine bleeding. Because fibroid and abnormal uterine bleeding are like hand to hand. So all OB-GYN should be very, very knowledgeable and updated what is the palm coin, and we really look forward to keep every abnormal uterine bleeding patient in certain category, whether it is polyp, it is fibroid, it is endometrial or iatrogenic. I think panelists will agree to it that the palm coin and the category of fibroid should be known to every gynecologist. What do you say, Vidya?
Yes, definitely. And whenever there are we have to do this when we decide for the management also, it is very important. Like if you want to do hysteroscopic myomectomy, we want to know the where it how much it inside the cavity, and this mapping by MRI is also very much important when we think of MRI guided focused ultrasound therapy. All those things matter. FIGO classification is
now
very,
we are
very
coming. We will not start from high tech, which are not available and make something complicated.
No, for FIGO classification,
for the very, very simple case situation, a 20-year-old girl, third-year BTech student, having 6 months heavy bleeding, a little dysmenorrhea, a little heavy bleeding, and she is brought ultrasound report which shows 2 interstitial fibroid, 12 by 14, 10 by 12. 1 ovary is cystic and enlarged and echogenic, and endometrial cavity normal. She is super anxious as she enters with all the reports. This will turn into cancer. I am not married. My campus placement is due in a 6 months. So much anxious that she makes you anxious also. So any panelist will like to start with? Rashmi, can you start it? We have not listened your voice. So how you are going to deal with this girl?
First thing is a good counseling. They are very, very small ones. So she doesn't have to bother about it. But yes, definitely she has the symptoms. So she doesn't have to bother about cancer or a big issue. I mean, first thing, counseling is very important. Second thing is because they're small ones, but still she is having some symptoms, lower abdominal pain and dysmenorrhea. So we can give her a short course of medical management.
Yes. So first of all, you have to allay the fear. That don't be so panicky, but actually you have to allay your own fear also. So my question is, that we actually, without investigation, we cannot assure her. So question to the panelists, these girls with fibroid with the mild system, what other investigation you wish to undertake? You are comfortable with on one ultrasound, or you want to repeat she has a cystic ovary as well. You are comfortable with only report, or you want to make her lie and do the examination? And Rashmi has already said that she will opt for medical management. And if medical management, now the question is what drug is your choice? So any panelist can take the question. Any other investigation you wish to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, for this patient, particular patient, she's also having a cystic ovary. The symptoms she is having with such a small fibroid, 1 to 2 millimeter fibroid, which I feel she might not be having her menorrhagia or dysmenorrhea per se because of the fibroid. It might be due to some other things which might cause. Maybe the cystic ovary might be also causing her symptoms. So first, main thing, we have to allay her fear and anxiety, and then examine her, reassure her. Then if we think that maybe the cystic, we can advise a repeat ultrasound according to her cycle. So she might be in the cycle phase where the ovaries might be enlarged. So we can repeat another ultrasound, maybe post-menstrually, and maybe for cycle regulation and reducing her dysmenorrhea, we can give her OC pills. Rather than managing the medical condition of the fibroid by medical management, I would first advise maybe OC pills to regulate her cycle and her dysmenorrhea. Then I will take over the fibroid.
Yes, yes. Indrani, very, very well said. And we wish to give this very clear message to our all participants that all abnormal uterine bleeding is not due to fibroid. And one observation for the cystic ovary is not, it is a cystic ovary, it may be the physiologically cystically enlarged ovary. And always medical management is preferred. And straight away, we don't go for the managing fibroid. We go to the manage symptoms, so she can comfortable, she can be cured, and she has have a good quality of life for an examination. Thank you, Indrani, for very, very clear message. Now the second question, your first choice is OCOC. Anybody for the thyroid function test or rule out pregnancy complication or something?
Yeah, we'll all do. So, definitely, thyroid at this stage is age we should at least do and rule out. Whether we treat and how much of threshold we are keeping for TSH is another issue. But thyroid, and depending on her menstrual history, probably prolactin or other things which come at this age group. See, 20 is also an age group when she's almost finished her teens. Maybe she will get in for marriage or something. So that kind of history and counseling will also assure her. And because you also said vitamin D is nowadays probably because we are detecting more or people are more vitamin D deficient, and there is some contribution. So if we can test for that and correct it also, maybe, I mean, nobody knows the etiology of fibroid as such, but at least the progression wise, we can help her.
So see the full picture and not focus only on a piece of paper. We have to see and sometimes they are sexually active, and we have to see for the pelvic inflammatory disease or
inflammatory disease.
Thing. So this is also important thing to keep in the sight. So professional body recommends ultrasound is a recommended imaging modality, and the one keyword that the uterine fibroid management should be tailored to the size and location of fibroid, patient age and symptom, desire to preserve fertility, and access to therapy and physician experience. So everything matters, and this is a very, very important slide which we really want to have a look by the delegates. So these are overall goals of treatment in fibroid: relief of sign and symptoms, sustained reduction in size of fibroid, preservation of fertility, and do no harm. So this is COC is the Indrani choice. Anybody else that we are using? Vidya, please.
I just want to add, I will not start COC right away because her cycles are regular. And she doesn't have any heavy menstrual bleeding. So I'll just counsel. Yeah, so she is having only she is concerned about the dysmenorrhea. So I'll counsel her, and I will try this symptomatic non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like mefenamic acid and Tranaxa combinations. So I will give her 3 cycles and see. Of course, as you have said, the hemogram, UTI, pelvic inflammatory diseases, and other causes of dysmenorrhea, I will rule out. But I will not give unnecessary OC pills in this patient.
So we have 2 different opinions. Indrani says
not for fibroids. Yeah, fibroids if fibroids are just small, I just follow up this with serial ultrasound.
One choice is NSAID and the tranexamic acid, and you can start with NSAID, tranexamic acid, rule out other thing, and if the symptoms doesn't resolve, then you go for the COC.
See, even otherwise,
she's got some intermenstrual. She's got some intermenstrual pain also, ma'am. So giving her NSAIDs and tranexamic acid for that purpose may not work out, because you'll be giving it throughout a cycle, which may cause more problems. Gastritis.
Intermenstrual bleeding, intermenstrual pain nahi hai usko. She's having only dysmenorrhea.
She said occasional pain. One symptom was there.
But the history is 6 months, no?
Okay, it's good.
You have to rule out other causes.
Yeah. And I feel because the history is 6 months, she must have already tried with NSAIDs, because nowadays people already are into NSAIDs on their own. Yeah. So by the time the history, since it's already
over
6
the
months,
counter.
So I feel that she must have already tried this on her own.
So,
because all will work out.
I need to communicate that COC does not have effect on uterine fibroid volume. It treats the symptoms. And COC is not contraindicated in fibroid. Yeah. Don't fear that it is having the estrogen and it will increase the fibroid size. So it is not, so COC can be given, but it is not a fibroid management, it is the symptomatic management. Any panelist will say LNG in adolescent or GnRH analog in adult. We see sometimes for GnRH.
No.
Why this no? Please.
GnRH, of course, GnRH we will not give in this age group because of its effects on the bone mineral density.
As it doesn't work more than 6 months.
Yeah. No, but even in this age group, we don't want to, right? So she's asking about this thing.
And not a big kind of fibroid. I mean, no question at all.
Yeah.
So Samita ji is no question at all. So IUCD, our patient our families does not want it. And it is a more treatment, and GnRH analog, all BMD issues. So always make the right. Now, sometimes if the patient is having a little larger size of fibroid, she is having a seedling sort of myoma, but it is 3 by 5 or 4 by 5 centimeter, then you opt for SPRM in this age group or not, and the symptoms are not relieved with the symptomatic treatment or COC. Any scope of SPRM, selective progesterone?
I have started using this SPRM and I am seeing it to be effective, but only after if she is not controlling symptomatic and the tumor is more than 1 centimeter size.
So great. So you are seeing a little, say Vidya and Charmila, we will like to have your input SPRM, mifepristone or ulipristal in the adolescent age group with a medium size fibroid. What do you say?
Whenever we talk of indicated medical therapy, it is only for the short-term therapy. First thing, and there are a significant risk for the long-term therapy. We cannot give for months together or years together. We cannot give. So it is a stand-alone treatment for the temporary relief of symptoms for only short period. So if it is symptomatic, we have to see the symptoms are only due to fibroids or any other cause, and the fibroid size is around 3 to 3 centimeters, something you told, no? So I would not like to give SPRM in this age group, especially in adolescents.
I think anybody is experiencing, I am giving SPRM for certain, for few selected, that's like multiple
fibroids.
Multiple
fibroids.
Yes.
Or big size.
See, some of these adolescent age group girls are diagnosed of a big, large submucous myoma as well. Now there obviously either you do a myomectomy, but otherwise I think for some time we can give medical management with SPRM as well.
No,
because these are the people.
If it is 4 to 5 centimeters, instead of waiting for it to grow, it's better to give medical. Mifepristone, it is a better choice. Even if you give for 1 month, initially 40 to 50% it is regress, even in 1 month treatment.
Then you
the problem is that when you
has
stop, then it regrows.
Regrows it.
Yeah.
That is also a problem.
Regrows. That is
No,
also.
if
I think
everything is fine.
the final message from all panelists, what we observed, that at the initial and a very, very small myoma seedling, selective progesterone receptor modulator is not a drug of first choice.
Yeah.
But if it is multiple myoma, if it is a moderate size myoma, and if you don't want to do the surgery because of many reasons in this age group, then we can consider the SPRM in adolescent age group also. I think it is a final message from all the panelists.
Agreed, ma'am.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for it. Any role of watchful expectancy if it is a small fibroid? Anybody
Of
want
course.
to?
Yes.
Always.
Watch over.
Always.
That's the best.
I will tell her, get married fast, get a baby before it grows.
Oh, don't say these two nowadays to girls.
The girls will not come back to you.
Oh, don't say. So there is no evidence that, as we say, all panelists say yes in myoma seedling. So it is again a clear message that there is no evidence that failure to treat myoma result in harm except when symptoms are severe.
It's
cannot
basic.
predict that when myoma will grow or when symptom will appear. And you have to be like knowledgeable, and we have to admit to the patient that at the moment we cannot say, but even if you don't do anything, it's also another way to take the thing.
But we have
It's
to ask her
basically
to
a very
follow up.
slowly growing.
Yeah, so but she has to remain in follow-up. If we are not doing anything with the fibroid, she has to remain in
most
follow-up.
important.
Yes. Once a month, once a year ultrasound, I think. Once a year ultrasound. And one thing which I again want to say, patients are concerned that she will turn into the cancer, but asymptomatic or mild symptom of AOB should be assured that there is no evidence to take major concern about malignancy with fibroid. So this is very, very important. Now coming to second case, a 25-year-old woman, married 1.5 years, regular cycles, and she is desiring for early conception. And when she gets her ultrasound done in the follicle or a basic scan, doctor found one subserous interstitial myoma, 30 by 35 millimeter. Everything is fine, good endometrium, good ovaries. So now her concern are, she is shocked. What do you say? No conception, this tumor, what to do with this? So can we start with, yes, any panelist?
You rule out the other causes of infertility, like the male factor and the tubal factor, and you will not do anything about the subserosal fibroid.
I agree.
I agree with tell her that it is not distorting her cavity, so hopefully this should not be causing any problem.
So all says that if it is not cavity distorting, there should be no. So the thing, we have to ignore it, we have to treat it, or we have to remove it. First of the basic question, how to counsel her, this is tumor and I'm not getting pregnant. How you will see what is the relation between fibroid and infertility? Any panelist can summarize for the benefit of audience. Is it a clear evidence of fibroid cause infertility, or still we don't know which fibroid cause infertility in that particular woman? So any
fibroid distorts the cavity or it distorts the tubal function needs to be considered for treatment. Otherwise, nothing needs to be done. But if it's going to be a very, very big fibroid, it should be dealt with, because they say it can cause a problem with fertility potential. Otherwise, nothing needs to be done for a reproductive function just because you see a fibroid.
So
only which distorts endometrium.
Thank you very much. All panelists agree to it. The subserous fibroid does not need at least urgent attention at the moment. So uterine myoma is associated with infertility in only 5 to 10% of cases, and we don't know that which myoma cause infertility, and still we don't know the direct relationship.
And we can tell her one thing, that if she opts for some surgery, that would do her more harm than good.
True, very true.
Yeah.
We have to explain.
Why destroy the myometrium more?
So this is very, very important, which the panelists have pointed out. don't see myoma, even if it is a my 3 to 3.5 centimeter. If we do the surgery, it may damage more the endometrium, it may cause more peritubal adhesion, and it may add adversely to the fertility. So this is a very, very crucial question, that the myomectomy to be done in a very, very selective. This is the flow chart which shows the same thing which our panelists have said, that the submucosal myoma are for a concern. Even then, the FIGO says that even in those cases, we can try for the medical treatment, but the intramural myoma or subserous myoma does need follow-up and a routine infertility management, fertility enhancing. So, this is again say it is a crucial decision, and very young gynecologists say very quickly resort to the laparoscopic myomectomy or hysteroscopic myomectomy. And I have seen a lot of patients with the Asherman, with very bad Asherman syndrome, with especially hysteroscopic myomectomy, because somehow they use energy even if they don't. Sometimes they are like compelled to use the energy, and it makes the situation very, very so. Never do harm is very, very important, and obstetrics and gynae is a branch which is physician as well as surgery. We are so much like blessed to have the best of all the fields. Now, if there is fibroid you want to treat, it is say 4 to 5. What is your preferred choice of drug if you want to manage the fibroid? Anybody can take this question. So if you want to manage the fibroid, like it is a 4 to 5, and patient says you are having difficulty, like you say that it will affect infertility if you do IUI or something. So what is your drug of choice?
Can I say?
Yes, yes.
So in this patient, if we look at, thank you, I'm sorry for joining late.
Welcome, we read your beautiful CV in your absence.
So, thank you so much, ma'am. So, in this patient, since she is planning fertility, planning pregnancy, she would be in a hurry. So here I would like to go for mifepristone because, I want to remember this size. The size is small, but still if she wants to conceive fast, then it acts faster and less time is needed. So according to me, SPRMs are a good choice here, and out of the two, I would rather go for mifepristone.
So, Trapti says that the SPRM is a good choice. And FIGO also says the same thing. If it is even for submucous fibroid, FIGO now says that you suppress the menstrual suppression by UP or mifepristone, and you see that it is cavity is distorted or not, and you go ahead with the medical management. But if cavity remains distorted, then you go to it. What you say, Vidya Charmila, for this FIGO treatment option was I have pressed the slide for symptomatic uterine fibroid. It is not asymptomatic, it is symptomatic fibroid. Your comment on it, it is not necessary that we follow all the things, but your experience in India and
the I think mifepristone is a good choice, and I also prefer mifepristone, and 25 to 25 milligram orally for 3 months. It causes 50% of the size reduction, and it is very easily given orally, and the side effects are really minimal with the mifepristone. And even Cochrane data says 2012, if you see, then if you see the fertility, sterility, so many books, they also quote that mifepristone is a good choice for the treatment. So SPRMs are a good choice. And even for the cavity distortion, as Dr. Sadhana says, there are Indian many publications are there, which has definitely, there is, I think Dr. Ashish Kale has some case studies he has published. So he has given ulipristol, and he got the pregnancy outcome also. So it is better to treat with these patients with SPRMs.
There is something called
Indrani, you want to add to this? It is a very crucial. Indrani, you want to say something?
So if it's symptomatic, then only I would like to treat her. Otherwise,
that's what it is, symptomatic only. Without symptoms,
then SPRM definitely has a role.
Yeah. So the only I think
you have to customize, because otherwise later on recurrent pregnancy loss will be there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to say. See,
Madam,
because they say after you give a dose of, because they are anti-progestins, so probably it's better that we have a little bit of gap after you complete the course, say for
Yes,
3 to 6 months.
Yes, yes.
So that
Thank you
they
very
do
much
not
for
have.
thinking about this point that it is anti-progesterone. So not you
Yeah.
ask the patient that pregnancy should not happen in that
Should not happen. Yeah.
period. And again, we say I think it is the final message from all panelists that medical management offers avoidance of surgical, immediate as well as long-term risk, convenience and low cost. And if there is asymptomatic, ignore it. If it is symptomatic, only then treat it medically. Even medical treatment is not required for asymptomatic small fibroid, especially away from the uterine cavity. I think it is the final message from.
And also
Madam,
medical
Madam, one
management,
point.
if given as a pre-surgical, this still it is beneficial when you do a surgery because the operative blood loss is also less.
So with this, I've always backed up with my next slide that it also says that if you give medical treatment, then you can do hysteroscopic myomectomy and you can do from the opens to laparoscopic, especially for the young upcoming endoscopic surgeon who have difficulty in removing the big myoma. So it is also adjuvant to the surgical treatment, and sometimes patient may be good also. Patient may already has been benefited.
And
So
before madam, one point, before an IVF procedure, suppose you have got small fibroids that are just impinging into the endometrial cavity, you can give a course of medical treatment, shrink them, and then do your embryo transfer. It works much better than doing a transfer.
Yes, great.
There is one question from the audience that why not GnRH?
Question at the end of the session. At the moment, no. Tripti will take all the questions. We will take 10 minutes for all the questions.
All
so,
right.
but follow-up is important. So Charmila has put very, very important for those persons who are doing IVF. It is like impinging on the endometrial cavity. Don't do embryo transfer. You put on the medical management, and when it shrinks, and you can do the embryo transfer after 1 or 2 months. I think Charmila, you want to say the same thing?
Yes, ma'am.
So, but we have to follow the myoma and what is the size reduction and what is the relation with the cavity. That's important in adolescent as well as in the infertility. So at this moment, when we see that the adolescent age group also have the SPRM, a limited use, definite type of patient, and the infertile. Many people don't know because only the drug pharma people tells us that what is this drug, and we started doing prescribing. So I will say again, anybody that how this SPRM concept has come and how these drugs are suddenly available from last 2 or 3 years. So can we start from Vidya now for this for the concept of SPRM?
I just want to comment on the another one thing is how many of before starting this selective progesterone receptor modulators, I just wanted to ask someone, some of the panelists, how many of you know that aromatase inhibitors, that letrozole being used for the treatment of fibroids?
Yes.
Can
I
anybody
know that, but I have not
At the last we will take, yes.
We have many more drugs, I think, aromatase inhibitors, estrogen, SERMs.
We were talking about
Madam, fibroid is actually an estrogenic environment, but it has both estrogenic and progesterogenic receptors. But you don't have a drug which will act as an anti-estrogenic. It is not as good as the progesterogenic modulators which we have. So we're using a progesterogenic modulator because the mitotic activity of the fibroid cells are being damaged by the this receptor modulators. So you will have a shrinking of the fibroid, and it will have a much better effect of the GnRH agonist, which will cause only a shrinking of the extracellular fluid and the matrix. It will not cause a cytotoxic effect. But these drugs will cause a cytotoxic effect. So the regaining the size, the previous size will be little slower in a drug like SPRM compared to GnRH agonist, where the recurrence is very, very fast because it's just the water which is shrinking. That's the way this SPRM works.
And even the estrogenic deficiency state or a pseudomenopausal syndrome is a little more in other groups than SPRM. So obviously that limits the usage as well, the estrogen withdrawal or anti-estrogenic effect.
So it has got agonist, antagonist, and partial and mixed effect on the progesterone target issues. That is in the nutshell. Yeah.
Earlier we were thinking that estrogen was promoting, but now studies say they are more facilitated for the progesterone effect. So ultimately,
Yes.
the sulfate are the progesterone. So even if you're giving SERMs, you are not blocking that effect.
That
of the
part. Yeah.
So that's the main, like the conventional classic teaching says that it is estrogen dependent. It is estrogen dependent.
No.
But the new studies have shown the progesterone has also the very, very important role. Progesterone, PRA receptors. And this slide shows the same thing, that it is increased BCL2 protein expression, which inhibit apoptosis, increase EGF expression, which cause angiogenesis, and decrease TNF-alpha expression, which cause fibroid cell proliferation. And that brought the concept of selective progesterone receptor module. And that's why we have the good choice of drugs for the fibroid management. So this is very important, because when we prescribe the drug and we understand the drug, then we write it with the confidence. And mifepristone is the first SPRM studies, and 5, 10, 25 milligram, many studies which I am sharing through that. The same what GnRH analog works only on pituitary, but SPRM, be it a mifepristone or ulipristal, it work on fibroid, it work on endometrium, and it work on pituitary. So SPRM is far ahead along with the side effect of GnRH analog. So these are few studies which I am sharing fastly for the benefit of audience, that it is a Murli J, it is international studies which show it is a effective treatment, and it again shows the very, very effective treatment with the various dose of mifepristone 2.55 for the 3 to 9 months. And it is the symptomatic Vyama, and these are our own Indian studies.
Indian studies.
That it is very effective drug to treat the fibroid and associated symptom. It is our own this thing, Alka Kriplani and Vidushi Kulshresh, that the 10 or 25 milligram. Initially there was problem when research was done. We have to break up in the pharma department and do the study. But now it is commercially available 10 milligram and 25 milligram. When the studies were done, it was a lot of effort to keep the dose, the mifepristone at this thing. And it is our Jogi journal, which is Anupam Kapoor, which says that the long-term low-dose mifepristone is very, very effective and in the
Just want to clarify, Sadhna, do we start with 25 mg for 3 months and then go to 10, or 10 initially and 25 later?
First 25 and then
25.
Yes.
First 25 dose.
Okay, first 3 months.
25 milligram first 3 months.
So panelist has more opinion. We start with the higher dose 25 for first 3 months. Then you want to give a break, or you want to switch over immediately to the 10 milligram.
Immediately we can
break of 2 months.
I will give a break.
And then start.
Do we need to give a gap? I think 25 mg 3 months, and then taper the dose to 10 mg for 3 months. Then evaluate. Of course, we will go through the lab tests and all those things, and then follow her up, and then decide whether what you need to do.
So 25
that is how I
followed by 10, which you are doing. Indrani and Trapti, now this is a clinical experience which really valuable. Indrani and Trapti, what do you say about the dosage?
I would want to give a break, because ultimately, it becomes pro-estrogenic, because if it's anti-progesterone, it will potentiate estrogenic. So I would rather give a break of a month, at least a month.
At least a month. Yes, you are right. And Trapti, Indrani, what do you say?
I would also like to give a break.
So after 3 months, give at least 1 or 2 months break, and then you start, and that is thing. And again, I say a little bit once daily after food should be started, preferably on 1st to 7th day. On the same time every day, it is again important, like mini pills, contraception, that the time schedule, because if we don't say this to patient, then it may be a little less effective, and minimum duration should be 3 to 6 months. So this is, and the ulipristal acetate is a 90-norprogesterone, and there has been very Pearl trial, and a little bit I can take at this point. There was a suddenly we use ulipristal, suddenly there was, it is liver toxic.
Yeah.
So, so what was your, have you experienced in your real case liver injury? What is it?
No.
Anybody,
Actually,
No,
the
no,
incidence is very low. I think liver injury has been very low, but because
and
there
if
were
we
1 or 2
are
cases,
doing a
they got
liver test
alarmed.
beforehand.
Yeah.
LFT better to get.
Before starting, it should be actually
Before
rule
starting,
out
we
any
should-
liver disease. Before starting the therapy, liver diseases, because if she has a pre-existing liver disease, then the chances of ulipristal acetate causing liver complications are more, rather than causing it in a normal liver function test.
Thank you. I think every experience make it wiser and maturer. So this is a good drug. This is a rare complication, but it has made us wiser that we do routine liver function tests. We rule out any previous organic disease and we follow it with the repeat liver function test if we are using ulipristate. So it is safe and effective and makes the drug use more effective and less risky. So this experience has made us real wiser. I think I'm not. I'm reflecting panelist view. It's okay. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No, in fact, in between when emergency contraceptive, the levonorgestrel was not being available.
Yeah.
I think ulipristal was also being used for the emergency contraception.
Now it has
And that
come
is,
up.
yeah. Now
Something
it,
in a big way.
Some
So
patients
what
liver
is the
injury was that much that it needed transplant. So that's why actually now they are worried. It needed transplant in some patients.
Four
ulipristal
patients.
is not
Four
a member
patients.
of theoretical class of drug which cause elevated risk of drug-induced liver injury.
You have to be careful.
Yes. So you have to be careful, and this is the time. This is a very a brief communication in the COVID time, and the professional body says that don't suspend ulipristal because it is a COVID-19 pandemic. And I really look forward to be Foxy as mature that we concern for the people and we direct the things, government and the authorities that this is a special time, this is something, and we have to reach the benefit of the.
no, also, I think ulipristal is a non-steroidal antiprogestin, I mean a sperm, compared to the steroidal mifepristone. So I think ulipristal should exist. I mean, it's non-steroidal. So
It is
they
existing.
Coming to
And it is approved. It is approved by FDA in India.
FDA, not FDA approved. It is not FDA approved.
It is used, DCGI approved in India.
In India, it is approved.
Okay.
It is approved. Ulipristal has been approved.
And we congratulate and good wishes that this woman has got pregnant. She is now 3 months pregnant and has got back to her maternal place where she sees the other obstetrician. Now she comes, no, this is ultrasound and oh my God, this fibroid which was existing is still here. So now her doctor as well as patient is worried, will it get abortion? What will happen? It will increase with the fetus. So fibroid with pregnancy, we see now so many, this report, especially in first trimester scan. So panelists, I will say to Indrani, I will think you will start that how you follow these pregnancy with fibroid. How to comfort her and how to reassure the mother and be careful also so that we don't have complication or we manage complication well. Indrani, can we start from you?
I think first and foremost, I would like to give her a very good counseling. That first thing, you have got pregnancy with fibroid, that's great news. Now you have to reassure yourself that the fibroid, per se the fibroid can, she's already 3 months. So she's almost crossed her first trimester. She's already 3 months pregnant. So her risk of abortion slowly has come down, but still there is some chance. But if it is just the same patient, 3 centimeter fibroid, I would assure her that it's not a big issue. We have so many patients with fibroid and they have been delivered. We should give her the positive aspects that with fibroid, how many pregnancies, if I have done, how many pregnancies I have delivered with normal, without complications, with normal delivery. Plus some little bit of, I would tell her, the fibroids might grow in size. There might be red degeneration. So what are the symptoms she might expect with the fibroid? That I would like to counsel her very well. And then reassure her that it should be okay. We will look into the complications if it occurs, and when it occurs, we'll take it. But most likely you'll end up nicely. And I think I would convince her also that fibroid per se does not need, she should not be discouraged from normal delivery also. The complications I will tell her, explain to her, but she can go for a normal delivery also. But if she lands up in CS, then during the CS, it will be on the surgeon to decide whether a myomectomy will be required in the same sitting or not.
Achha, what do you say, Tripti? In my age, Gynae, and your age, I think we know the complication associated with certain things like fibroid, but really we have to tell the complication, or we see in our heart that whenever the thing will come, we will manage or what to tell everything. So, Tripti, any difference? I don't give the detailed list of complications, but yes, I know this is fibroid, and
we should not tell her about the red
We have to be
generation.
very diplomatic these days. You know, diplomacy is a rule. So
don't tell her.
If we don't tell, patient is going to Google and come back to you. If you over tell, patient will run away from you. So somewhere we have to find a middle way.
And she will have angina and anxiety and sleep disorders.
No, we can tell her.
Yeah, we have to explain them that this complication can occur.
Yeah,
but
it
is very rare.
Happen. I have to tell you, being an obstetrician, you should be aware. We all know we are very diplomatic people otherwise, so we know how to find a way through. But it's very important.
Tripti, we are very truthful people, but now the legal, there is no legality actually in it. So how much counseling? Women deliver always with the risk. It is low risk or high risk. So keep complication to your side. Let's see, there may be a little problem, there may not be. Rest assured, and we will follow you closely.
Yeah, that's the best way to
go. My concern, don't bother. Actually, we'll tell patient that it's my concern. I have to take care of few things. I will do it. You better relax and enjoy.
Yeah, that's
yes, we are there to take care of. Abruptio can be of many causes, and we can do it. So
agreed.
Too much counseling. What to counsel? Women have delivered with taking their.
Sadhana ji, every delivery is risky.
Yes.
So every delivery has got its own complications.
Yes.
Sadhana, one thing, sometimes we have to be very careful with the first report. Suppose she's not already a diagnosed case of fibroid, and first report with pregnancy, they will give a note that there is a fibroid. We have to be careful because some myometrial contractions happen in the first trimester that also mimic the fibroid. And so sometimes they give a report, but which is not there. So we need to be little careful in declaring the fibroid
very careful, not little careful, because the false diagnosis, you are very, very correct. And like in the first trimester, if you see a little closed endometrial cavity,
after that it is not visible.
So yes.
Yeah.
So now
if it is on the posterior.
So we are coming to fourth case. It is 42 years woman, para 3, all cesarean section, hypertensive, a little impaired glucose tolerance, controlled on diet and exercise. Since last month, she is having prolonged and heavy menstrual bleeding with dull pain in lower abdomen. She is having 3 small interstitial myoma and endometrium is 13 millimeter thickened. So she is diabetic a little bit, controlled on nutritional therapy, hypertensive, 3 myoma, endometrial 13 millimeter thick. So as a person, what are your concern and priority, and how you are going to manage such a patient? Sometimes the OB-GYN, what is a gynae, they see only myoma report, tumor report, and we don't see the other things which can be important. So anybody can take it.
Endometrial biopsy. Endometrial biopsy should be
operated. With hyperplasia. I mean, it's a thickened endometrium. So first of all, we need to do an endometrial biopsy. It's the foremost thing that has to be explained to her.
Rule out the biopsy.
Considering she's diabetic, she needs to control her diabetes. I don't know her weight. So these things need to be explained to her. Future management will be told only after the biopsy report, whether she goes for progesterones or whatever. Will be clear only after the report.
So all panelists agree that they want 42 years diabetic, hypertensive free. Or every panelist like to do the endometrial aspiration biopsy, or there is some difference?
We have to control the diabetes and then do the DNC biopsy.
DNC, we will come to it again a little bit. But one message to our
we will do a hysteroscopic biopsy.
We can do hysteroscopy, diagnostic hysteroscopy.
We are coming to it. But one message is Don't only focus on myoma. See with your own image or
Endometrial thickness.
for what is endometrial thickness. And a thickened irregular endometrium is sometimes a polyp as well.
Yeah.
Or repeat ultrasound, you are having the same 15 millimeters. Think of the polyp. And myoma, it has to be differentiated and detailed evaluation for adnexa as well. So this is very important, and do what Vijaya said, that it may be myometrial contraction in pregnancy. Obviously, if you do only TVS, you can miss a big myoma. So abdominal scan followed by transvaginal scan. 3D or the Doppler studies are needed, very, very rare. And if you have a problem in diagnosing polyp, then the sonohistography is also very good. Now coming to this point, Madam Savita said DNC and biopsy. One said hysteroscopic biopsy.
I prefer hysteroscopy.
Any difference of opinion?
I prefer hysteroscopy guided.
See,
no,
gold standard, but still you can do endometrial depending upon the circumstances. If patient is not that upper class or something, we can go for endometrial sampling also.
Aspiration is it? Endometrial aspiration.
Charmila, endometrial aspiration, that is the thing which we also recommend. And I like to elaborate, Charmila, you please take up, because it is FOXI recommendation as well as very, very patient friendly and always available. Hysteroscopy, many gynae are not doing. So Charmila, you just a little highlight
for the biopsy, it is not
especially these days when we know that
at a time, please, one request at a time, only one speaker, so that everybody can listen.
For endometrial aspiration, the advantage is you don't need to control the diabetic status and all that. You can do it as an OPD procedure. Take out the sample, and when you aspirate, you'll get enough material, more than your curettage also sometimes, because you're sucking it out. So you'll take the best material, and that's very good because you don't need to control any of her conditions and put her under anesthesia.
No anesthesia.
And for a 42-year-old, I don't think you need to go for a hysteroscopy to find out whether she's got an endometrial hyperplasia. Unless you've seen a very bad endometrium and your 3D is telling you that it's very vascular and you have a suspicion that she's having a malignancy. For such a patient, I don't think I'll go for a hysteroscopy.
Actually, this patient is previous 3 cesareans. So maybe people-wise,
difficult.
Maybe, ma'am, but it's not for all. You can always do an OP and find out whether it's stenosed or not. If it's stenosed, then you can prepare her properly, control her diabetic status, and then take her under sedation. But without a trial, please don't go for a sedation.
A little bit of misoprostol will also help her. For the os.
What message we want to give to audience? First of all, blind DNC should not be procedure of choice for endometrial histopathology sampling, nor the always hysteroscopy really helps. It is not so. And the second thing, equipment and expertise is not that widely available for such a simple situation, which is a very, very clinically common problem. So as endometrial aspiration, it is office procedure, it is easily done, and you get the histopathology sample. It is not a cytology sample, and it don't require even dilatation as well. So endometrial aspiration is very, very important thing, very simple thing. Every and each gynecologist can do it. Now we have done endometrial aspiration, normal cytology, endometrial proliferative phase, and now the problem is only fibroid. So what you want to do, so you are okay with proliferative phase, you want to do hysterectomy. If medical management, what is your choice of drug, or you want to do for the LNG IUD? You can share your experience here.
LNG IUD.
So I will not prefer LNG.
So good. It is so good to have difference of opinion. LNG, and one does not want LNG IUD because she is diabetic. Both valid point. Any other option?
I would LNG IUD.
LNG IUD.
Marina. Even if she is diabetic, I don't think it
won't matter. It won't matter.
one thing is she is
So
on
why LNG? Why you are not going for SPRM now? This is the right candidate for it.
That's a temporary one, madam. How many months are you going to give? And you're already saying this hepatotoxic, endometrial hyperplasia changes can happen.
It is not
Already
with
she's.
the mifepristone. It is
So
only
ulipristal itself causes some endometrial
one thing I want
changes.
to make clear, ulipristal is not hepatotoxic. What is it? It is not in the category of drug-induced liver injury. So we have to follow it. This is very important, and it is not a hepatotoxic drug. But yes, LNG iod is a good choice, as we say.
Mifepristone is much better.
Anybody like to do mifepristone or SPRM? Any
No.
No.
The role of endometrial atrophy is limited with them.
But her age is 42.
She can go in for a.
There will be
Age is
endometrial
42.
changes.
For menopause, there's many years are left.
And
Yeah,
why
that's
to
it.
bother about diabetes? It should be controlled.
So
Yeah.
what? LNG won't cause anything to a diabetic.
LNG IUG.
But what practically I am seeing the doctors all over the country, like I am seeing what prescription they are first prescribing SPRM and not LNG IUCD mostly, but the panel's majority says that you will prefer LNG
I
IUCD.
prefer mifepristone.
So both are okay.
If patient
and
is 46,
46 also it's levonorgestrel. 50 also it's
42,
levonorgestrel.
even at 30, as a contraceptive, it will work. If she's
Even
young.
20, even 25.
So at any age, LNG IUG is a wonderful.
Wonderful
So,
choice.
and
Medical
LNG
hysterectomy.
one problem, if it is cavity distorting myoma, then LNG
The size is more
For
than
that,
12.
and the second is
Sadhna ji, for that purpose, I would like to do hysteroscopy because we don't know the cavity, how it is. So before inserting LNG IUS, better to do one hysteroscopy. And
No.
really
My
like
ultrasound
I
will
would
tell
not
me.
do.
Yeah, I think
Not
that-
ultrasound.
SIS, otherwise if you don't have, better to do SIS at least.
For me, my ultrasound will tell me that.
Yeah, same here. Ultrasound.
You have
ED,
3D,
what
4D ultrasound.
Good
What?
ultrasound.
I think the well done ultrasound with the beautiful
Yes.
Voluson machine or something,
Yeah.
perfect vision of the for diagnosis only. I think hysteroscopy has got a very limited role. What you say, Trapti and Indrani, young gynecology, what your
I would go for an
They will
ultrasound
have
biopsy, not hysteroscopy in this patient. I mean,
for
ultrasound,
LNG
as you
IUD,
say.
madam has
No,
said
for LNG
IUD.
IUS.
I am a hardcore supporter of LNG IUD.
Yes. Me too,
Yeah,
me too.
I will
LNG
also
IUD,
support
yes.
that
Me too.
LNG IUD.
I prefer
It's a
mifepristone.
good choice. Mifepristone is
LNG.
good choice, and this is the drug.
SPR.
POC, progesterone, LNG, GnRH, and the SPR.
All comparative
At her age,
studies.
the safest would be that.
Yes. So it goes, and she was given SPRM for 3 months. She had amenorrhea since 2 months, and now she get her done ultrasound again because she has amenorrhea advised by ultrasound, and now she sees what in ultrasound fibroid has reduced. She has amenorrhea, rate of premenstrual bleeding, but the ultrasonologist says that endometrium is thick and irregular. She has been on SPRM, not LNG. So what you say, you are worried.
Wrong choice.
Worried
The
or
wrong.
not worried, be happy, be it fibroid or fibroid.
The wrong choice. The wrong choice of treatment for her. That's why she
So we
landed up
are
with
between
this.
the deep sea and the devil now.
I think the LNG IUCD is good, but actually what message we want to give to people
For
that
pathology.
is associated with the benign change in the
Benign and the hypertrophy.
Yeah.
It's very, very important.
Hyperplasia.
Must know that it is benign change and nothing to worry about it. It is a natural, like we can say, side effect of the SPRM, and it is always benign. This
Without ATPia. Yeah.
ATPia, without ATPia.
Without ATPia.
It
And
will
it-
wash away after stopping the treatment.
It is called progesterone associated endometrial change. Benign, non-physiological, non-proliferative. If you do histology, you will find cystic cellular dilatation.
Cystic dilatation, yes.
We do not consider to be cancerous.
And actually, imaging person, gynae as well as pathologist should be aware that patient has used SPRM and its effect on endometrium. So one thing, we should be very knowledgeable about drugs, that what is causing what, because we must know what are side effects, what are precautions. And I will again say that always like what is it is flexibility. If the patient doesn't want something, you can counsel 2 or 3 things, like in contraception, like in treatment. Every treatment is good if it fulfills the patient's purpose and goal. So we cannot be strict only one thing, only we do hysteroscopy, only we do LNG. We should be comfortable, and that's why the
Sure.
are frightened for 38, 9-year rural women. Okay, why IUCD? Why IUCD? Okay, now you are B with drugs. So select the patient receptive. It is not only our knowledge, we have to be comfortable with the patient cultural and her own concern. So no treatment is wrong in this world. Even blessing is important, watching is important, and prescribing drug, LNG, IUCD, everything is okay. Be always flexible and be reassuring to your patient.
These are and the gynecologist pathologist talk conversation.
And at least we should know that it is this thing. So this is how to monitor patient on SPRM, vaginal ultrasound in post-menstrual period to check endometrial thickness. And first of all, also confirm before, as we have done, that it was already not there. So it is important HB, liver function test, endometrial biopsy, and or hysteroscopy, and repeat after 3 months what is the happening with myoma size, and undertake further investigation if there is a problem and what to do next. So hysterectomy, any panelist will take, this is the slide when you consider hysterectomy surgical treatment in your, when you are having LNG, IUD, mifepristone, ulipristal, when you consider like now it is the time for surgery. So anybody can take.
Abdominal bleeding which is not responding to medical treatment, you consider hysterectomy. Suppose she's having severe abnormal bleeding, which is causing anemia and causing compromise in her, you better go for a hysterectomy. She's got multiple fibroids which may not respond to either your conservative surgical treatment or a medical treatment. It's better if you go for a hysterectomy. A lady who's in the perimenopausal age group and she's got more complications, it's better if you go for a hysterectomy. Submucous fibroids which are bigger and she's in the perimenopausal age group, hysterectomy is a good option. A rapidly enlarging myoma should be taken with consideration because it can be sometimes a sarcoma also. And there are associated pathologies like endometriosis and she's having severe pain along with her fibroids. It's better if you go for hysterectomy. And if the patient is desiring and she's not a compliant patient with your medical treatment and who will not come for a proper follow-up, it's better if you go for a hysterectomy.
So thank you very much, Sharmila, because surgery has its own role and sometimes very, very satisfying. We want to save the uterus, but sometimes surgery is needed and we should select that good number of cases. Anybody want to add for this thing, choice of hysterectomy in the management of fibroid?
Just one thing, the hemoglobin level generally in fibroid when we see is not that, because what happens is they say when the fibroids are big, they themselves give rise to a little erythroblastic activity and the polycythemia, and also the loss of the hemoglobin or red blood cell count which you are seeing actually is not in proportion to the amount of abnormal uterine bleeding which it causes. So that is also
very important. So see always the whole picture and don't focus on any one thing. Now, what you said, Vijaya, we have, like, you are like anticipating my slides.
No, maybe, between us. I don't know. We are of the same age group, no? So we
yeah. She has.
So we have the same
intuitions. Intuitions, sir.
I shared only roadmap, not my slides to any of the panelists. So
no, you didn't tell. We are of the same age group, so we are thinking alike.
55-year-old woman, para 2 is coming with heavy and prolonged bleeding, HB 5%, diabetic and hypertensive, which is not well controlled. Ultrasound shows multiple myoma with one submucous myoma. Every gynec has advised hysterectomy, not fit at the moment, and in COVID time, everybody is pushing her away. How you are going? She's at this situation. It is COVID time, don't wanting elective surgery, even on taking risk, and still she is anemic, diabetic, hypertensive. How you are going to manage this patient? Can we start? Anybody can take it.
So one thing is you'll have to take biopsy.
Yes.
Biopsy is a must.
Biopsy is must. Anyway, you have to build up iron stores in between. By the time you will get your biopsy report, if biopsy is normal, maybe it is because of some other reasons. So then you can just take the time with your medical management.
One thing, this has raised a very important and interesting issue. Now, like I will like to have the panelist opinion that if it is a one submucous myoma, which ultrasound says, do you take the decision? You have to take the biopsy, or you, if it is, let it be this case not, it is not submucous myoma, but if the endometrium say 2 or 3 millimeters thin, you always prefer to do the endometrial aspiration.
Yes, always.
Yes. So
always.
Not we have to rule out the malignancy. There is a corpus cordis like diabetes, hypertension.
And since she's already a post-menopausal age group.
55.
So how we are going to
the post-menopausal symptomatic with bleeding, invariably, yes.
We have to see
symptomatic. Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we do the endometrial aspiration or the bleeding also stops. Sometimes it is curative as well.
Curative.
Sometimes. So how we have to build up, because multiple myoma, not today, then tomorrow we have to keep her for hysterectomy. Then how we can use these beautiful drugs to manage these cases? One is the anemia. We have FCM. Many
we can use GnRH analog if we are using. We can give her a add-back therapy. I think that also works because we were using like 2-3 months of GnRH analogs.
It actually,
and with that we can
brings the fastest.
But actually, this age group, there is already osteopenia. So definitely that will cause more bone mineral density loss.
Up to 3 doses, nothing will happen. So it can give and it will work the fastest. GnRH agonist is the one which works the fastest. Giving any other tablet drug and waiting for it to shrink may take time. Give her GnRH agonist, block her receptors, allow her to, then you start your treatment. It may work much better.
And add-back therapy. You can add with the add-back therapy.
Beyond 3 doses only you will need
add-back, madam. Beyond 3 doses we require.
We can
by the time COVID will get over, I will do a hysterectomy. COVID over, I will hysterectomy.
At the age of 55, you don't require add-back therapy.
Yeah.
I think.
For 3 doses, you can be very safe. Nothing will happen.
You can give. Because she is 55, yes, that you have to do. But calcium,
GnRH analog in such situation, acute situation, can be our first line treatment. FCRM is also a good choice because we have really amenorrhea along with the nutrition and the control of diabetes and hypertension. Actually, we are building overall. We want to correct anemia. We want to achieve pregnancy, and we want to reduce the heavy menstrual bleeding so that we have the time. And sometimes what it helps, GnRH analog or SPRM, that we can change the route like abdominal to vaginal, vertical to transverse.
Transverse.
If laparoscopy surgeon, again I say laparoscopy surgeon, we see a range of expertise, and sometimes it will help a little like who was not very well expert in the difficult fibroid. And it is again important that if the fibroid is much like more than 18 week size, these drugs
may not have act.
Any panelist refer to this statement. Very, very big fibroid, these drugs actually have the effect or not. Anybody want to differ from this?
No, it is
analog or SPRM will help or not? A little bit. What is your experience? What you say?
I've never used it before a hysterectomy.
I have not used. At age of 55, I have used progesterones, but not receptor modulators. No.
So final takeaways: the medicine and surgery, friend or foe? No, everyone is your friend in this universe. I fully believe in it. Everyone is your friend in this universe. Now coming to a few last slides. High tech, I always say beware and aware. So you try not to embolization because every person is on Google. In COVID time, they have like increase their knowledge. Google there all the time, even in the rural. I'm not expecting that they have come with the rural. So कोई और तो treatment नहीं है, UAE तो नहीं है. So what is your experience, real time experience, that where it is available? Few of our panelists in the teaching institution, and Tripti is in a corporate hospital. What is its availability? What is its efficacy in the current era, and where these procedures are placed in the fibroid management? We can start from Tripti, who is in Delhi, and like everything is in Delhi now.
Ma'am, we have a very wonderful intervention radiology department, very expert people who are, using it everywhere, but I still find them little reluctant in, using UAE as a mode for fibroid. A few patients that we saw, they had a lot of post-operative pain, and they were the ones who refused to go for any other treatment. They said, no, they were the ones who had come from abroad, and they insisted on that. And the result was not good. So maybe it's a personal choice, but I don't actually advocate that much. It's much easier to go for a myomectomy or use the medical methods, other methods first.
Thank you, Tripti, because it is from the Delhi and the corporate hospital that everything which is on the Google is not actually clinically available.
Yeah.
And then you have an intervention, very good radiologist. How many of us has that radiologist availability?
They're hesitant somehow in, going to the uterine artery. I don't know why.
I think this embolization, they are more comfortable for doing for aneurysms and all. So when we find uterine aneurysms. But primarily for fibroids, they are not very comfortable going into
placenta percreta, there are the things which is saving procedure. And one very, very important concern is that its long-term effect and outcome on fertility and pregnancy, we don't know.
Yes, it's not there.
On the ovarian and the myometrium.
And all obstetrical complications. So, and there are, as Tripti has said, acute abdominal pain, post-embolization syndrome,
severe pyrexia.
It's very difficult. They will go home and you will be left to deal with all that.
And it is never finishes.
Your resident is going to keep calling you, pain hai.
And it never finishes in one go. Patient has to come for a second. In one go, it never happens.
And sometimes I just want,
we are the
so many
last
queries.
Slide, when I searched for this thing, I found that this thing we are doing in our clinical practice, but many things like already Vidya has initiated the discussion on aromatase inhibitor. I found Vidya all these drug names which I am not able to pronounce even.
I also got so many, estrogen.
On the way, what something
oral GnRH antagonist.
We are going to help.
Sounds to be good.
So, any comment, brief comment on these drugs?
These drugs, I think before using these drugs, there are no much trials available, and many of them they are not available also. Then aromatase inhibitors like letrozole, it is available, but only one trial I just studied in the literature, that only one systemic review, that it involved only 70 participants. So significant, only fewer people, they have compared with GnRH agonist group. And they found that the letrozole as such, it has reduced the fibroid volume by 46%. But again, we need so many trials on aromatase inhibitors. And second, you have written about the second drug, that is estrogen receptor antagonist. So these that fulvestrant, this is a drug, and with that down regulates again the estrogen receptors. Then the raloxifene and those drugs also they have tried, but they have got many other side effects like osteoporosis mainly, and DVT. So these drugs are not at all used. They have one trial on cabergoline as well, and only one study is available on cabergoline. They have tried 0.5 milligram once a week for 6 weeks. And gestrinone, That is another drug which is again a steroid. But these are under trial. So the recently I just went through the literature, and they found that GnRH antagonist, this is a recent there is a recent publication which is published in May 2020. May 2020, what they say is this is a new generation GnRH antagonist, elagolix, that is what they say. And it is a combination of, it mainly acts centrally.
So, hello.
This is GnRH antagonist. Am I audible?
Yeah. A little bit internet.
So, this is a new generation GnRH antagonist. It is not an agonist, which acts centrally. And it again causes estrogenism. And it also add up whenever we give GNS agonist, we give added low steroidal add-back. So recently it has been need more trial on this. It is a co-packed, means it has got a 300 milligram of elagolix and 1 milligram of estradiol and norethindrone. This is a newer drug. So they are trying many drugs, medical management of fibroids, maybe genetics also, some genetic potential is also coming up. Everywhere we talk of genetics, and so maybe those treatment may be available. We know that fibroids also run in families.
Vidya, any trial on
this
DMPA? Any trial on DMPA for
fibroids? Madam, may I be excused, madam? I've got an emergency. It's okay.
Charmila, thank you.
Charmila.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciate your all the inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Vidya, I was just asking DMPA.
Yeah, you were talking about GnRH agonist. Everybody has used, and
DMPA. Depomedroprogesterone acetate. Yeah.
You have any experience? I don't have any experience of DMPA, but if you have tried, definitely it has got, again it will be acting, but there are again no studies available.
DMPA for the AUB.
DMPA does
AUB, mainly AUB.
DMPA acts through causing endometrial atrophy, basically.
Yeah, atrophy. That's what it will cause. It will act on the heavy menstrual flow and endometrium, so it will reduce that.
But
so these are the various
drugs. Today the whole world is making only trying COVID vaccine. There is huge market, lot of research.
Very true.
In the way. So face the world, we are concluding uterine fibroid is one of the most frequent cause of HMB, constituting many surgery, and there are many issues with GnRH analog and the high-tech procedure. We have to face the world as well as the future. SPRM, all SPRM are very promising drugs for perimenopausal and also the younger unmarried and infertile women with small and size deep intramural myoma, especially which is not accessible to hysteroscopic or laparoscopic surgery, which technique is also not available for majority of the patients. It is also beneficial as the pre-operative adjunct when surgery is challengingly difficult. So we have all the drugs and we have to use these drugs very wisely, and we should be confident. We all as a OB-GYN, we must know, we should have the discussion like this so that we are confident in making good choice. We are not making wise choice, and we are taking the patient interest as the prime priority, as the prime responsibility. Thank you very much for active discussion. I have given 35 years in FOXY in all the true spirit. Now I seek your blessing, your support for my presidential election. Leaders emerge. I believe in it that the leaders emerge naturally from the people. They are not ready-made. Thank you, Acumentis, for this discussion.
All the best.
And Trapti will take the question answer session. Please help the Trapti so that give her the chat box, and Trapti, you please take the question.
Yeah, I'll take the questions.
Panelists can take the
Thank you,
So,
Sadhna,
first
for
question.
making the panel
Thank you,
very
Dr.
nice.
Sadhna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you so
madam,
much,
so
madam.
much.
Thank you,
So
Sadhna.
the first question.
Thank you, Sadhna ji. Thank you.
Thank you all
And
the
all the
panelists
best.
and thank you participants. A good number
Yeah.
of participants are there. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
Rashmi.
Please be with us. You have to answer the question answer session.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'll ask the first question.
Yes.
This is the last case that we discussed. I'm taking the last question first. That at the age of 55 years, this is Dr. Veena asking, why not do hysterectomy as early as possible? Remember, the patient had a hemoglobin of 5 grams. So patient can build up with transfusion instead of reducing fibroid size with medication, which will take time. I think any one of you can answer that.
Yes, any panelist can. Yes.
Definitely. I
This
think
was
we
put
are
in the COVID
anyway
time
with,
because the question was
anyway
put
with
in
5
COVID
grams
time.
hemoglobin. In 5 grams hemoglobin, definitely we have to correct her anemic status. There is no question about it. Even if we plan for an early surgery or whatever we are giving, we have to correct her anemic status, number one. And of course, the control of her comorbidities. And then we plan ahead. And definitely hysterectomy can be done unless you don't have, I mean, as Sadhna also pointed out repeatedly, that we have to counsel with the patient and tell her, most probably at this age group with this kind of a status, and she has symptom, she will herself opt for hysterectomy. Now the question with hysterectomy, whether we do oophorectomy or not, or salpingectomy and all, that is again a different discussion also.
That we will do.
But
with
Can I just
yes.
add an
one more
experience
panel.
from one advice from one of our anesthetists? Just 2 years back, we had a patient, 38-year-old, no medical history, no surgical, no other history, and she had low hemoglobin. We transfused 2 units and then took her for hysterectomy. In the post-op period, the patient had massive embolism. So now she had no medical history, nothing. And from that time, our anesthetists say the only history that she gave was that of blood transfusion. So you should avoid doing surgery immediately after blood transfusion. I know most of us have been doing it, but you know, so that thing sticks in my mind and I always try to now avoid, because I've seen that patient going the wrong way. So I always try to avoid doing a surgery immediately after blood transfusion from that day. Maybe that's my bad experience, but that's a lesson I learned.
Immediate means how much time?
Ma'am, she was shifted in the ward within 6 hours.
Even not.
Oh, same? No. Same hospital stay you are saying.
Yeah, 6 hours she had a. They said when you are touching the pelvic veins, we had no high risk to give her a Clexane. We had not put her on. So she was just 38-year-old thin patient, not obese, no diabetes. And for us, she was saved because, you know, otherwise we would not have been able to give a diagnosis. She survived for a few days. We did all investigation. That is how we came to know that it was a massive
The problem is hemoglobin 5 grams is going to put you into a massive transfusion protocol. So obviously you need a little time for the build-up. You cannot do immediately. If it is 7 grams, 8 grams, that is different. But for 5 grams, you will have to, because you would have given about 4 units, 5 units of packed cells, and then you cannot take up immediately. You definitely need a little bit of time.
The oxygen carrying capacity of the tissues improve after some time. So in chronic anemia, we need to wait.
And anyway, 5 grams, any patient will give transfusion. Any patient. It's not
No, if she's
I'm saying to do surgery immediately or not.
No.
He's talking about hysterectomy immediately to follow the program. No, we will wait.
Go to another question, Prapti.
Can we use oral contraceptive pills in the perimenopausal women with seedling fibroids with mild menorrhagia who does not want amenorrhea? OC
we
pills
can.
in perimenopausal.
We can. Why perimenopausal area also oral contraceptives are being used for different purposes, even as a part of the menopausal hormone therapy as well. So I think OCPs are okay at this age group.
We can, and they are low cost drug as well. If they are effective, if she has a good relief, then they are low cost drugs. So it's perfectly okay. Yes, Prapti?
Yeah, there's another question that says that in patient desirous of pregnancy with submucous pedunculated fibroid, pedunculated one with menorrhagia, can we give SPRMs? I think we have discussed this, but then...
Has to be removed.
Has to be removed.
Pedunculated, then it's better to be removed.
And in hysteroscopy, I think it is only the cutting of pedicle is
it is only required.
So Dr. Rajni Parikh has asked the dose of SPRM.
So
we have told that.
Yes, we have
10 and 25. We can repeat for.
We can repeat.
25 milligram daily.
Yes.
So in the chat box also there are questions like why not give GnRH analogs? I think it was for that patient that we
That patient, yeah,
5-year-old.
You can GnRH.
You have to.
Both option always. Right? LNG, GnRH, everything is option, and you have to choose according to everything. What do you say, Vidya? And Vidya and Vijaya and what you say? You have to like select the drug. What you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
See, it will be, we have to counsel the patient, and we have to see the affordability, we have to see the medical conditions and all those things. I will prefer LNG IUS as a first choice. So because once you put it, forget it. Means that
Yes,
patient takes or not takes, that is again we have to follow it up. Of course, the endometrial thickness and biopsy we will do simultaneously, and we can put LNG IUS. So LNG IUS, according to the GCPR guidelines also, that is the first choice for me. And simultaneously, I'll treat the anemia if the patient is anemic and the medical conditions.
There is another question. 40-year-old perimenopausal with submucous fibroid 4 centimeters, bleeding controlled with tranexamic acid. Now, do we need to put her on mifepristone to reduce the size of fibroid? Again, I think we have covered that a symptom is controlled.
Yeah,
fibroid will be controlled only with a mifepristone. And if the submucous or fibroid, we can also go for a hysteroscopic removal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
the other question is,
and then go for hysteroscopy.
Yeah, there's another question. Can the patient become pregnant while on SPRM?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Once we stop.
That's yes, very
We took it.
Very uncommon, but anything can happen in a fertile woman. Huh?
Yeah. And once ulipristal is stopped, there is every chance that patient can become pregnant in the next cycle itself.
Yes. So she's taking while consuming, huh?
While on SPRM, yes, they can.
They
while she has been late in starting the drug.
Yeah. Generally, it causes
the menstrual cycle.
Generally, it causes anovulation, but yes, it can happen.
No, that's why they say you have to start it within the 5 days, otherwise the follicle will rupture and it will cause ovulation.
The endometrial receptivity is also not there.
First week of menses.
And there's one any brand name for mifepristone 25 or 10 mg. The fibroid people are here.
Fibroid people are here. That is a question targeted for them.
So there's a 30-year-old unmarried girl with multiple fibroids, lap myomectomy done 2 years before and recurred. Multiple fibroids since 6 months before also. What is the line of treatment? I think we've discussed.
Actually, multiple, very large number of myoma. It is my experience that after even myomectomy, they recur in 1 to 2 or 3 years. If there are very, very huge numbers. So, Vidya, what you do? Very, very relevant question. Very good.
She's already had a lap myomectomy.
And see, one thing is, whenever you're doing lap myomectomy or anything, the mapping of the fibroids is very important. And we cannot, microscopic seedlings, we cannot judge.
Yeah, exactly.
We are doing.
That's what.
So
maybe these are the fibroids which were very tiny at that time, but not visible. And that fibroid which you have removed has gone, but these fibroids have grown. And they
one you left. The one probably you got tired and left one very small seedling. It comes back to trouble.
And for these fibroids,
that is where medical management comes.
Because there is no how come.
No, for these fibroids we cannot give life.
So here the counseling of the patient before the first myomectomy is important. That the chances of recurrence and all should be explained to the patient prior we do.
The advantage of medical management is also in the broad ligament fibroids, cervical fibroids. I think here also the role of the medical management of fibroid is.
I think I'll take the last question. This is management of, there are multiple fibroids in a 40-year-old nulliparous woman. And they're 2 to 3 centimeter, 2 into 2 centimeter, having problem of menorrhagia and low backache.
Low backache.
Small fibroids. Menorrhagia bhi hai, symptoms bhi hai, 40-year-old.
Very good
Small
question.
fibroid.
LNG IUS.
No, what
Yeah.
about endometrium? What about endometrial cavity? What
She's
about
not mentioned, just
No,
menorrhagia. I would
on
say
those we have to
Rule out.
evaluate the patient.
investigate, yes.
She is desirous
is
of
important.
fertility. She is desirous of fertility
40
here
years
also.
she is.
Oh, she is not
Yeah,
married.
so
She is suitable for IVF.
Nulliparous.
Anything can happen nowadays. She can have.
Nulliparous or no hysterectomy. I think small fibroids, but we can just treat the menorrhagia and just observe them. They are very small ones.
We have to follow her.
Yes, we have to follow her. Yes.
I don't know whether we have discussed the dose of SPRM depends upon size of fibroid. So I guess we might have.
Vidya and Trapti, you take, this is very important. Dose related adjustment of SPRM. Yes, this is very important thing with very much. Anything, the audience who have come up to the last, they should get some benefit. Very pulse. So Trapti and Vidya, dose related.
Dr. Vidya Bolia, I'm asking the question, so I will ask.
No, it is not fibroids itne hai to itna dose zyada hai, but we give around the maximum dosage whatever the related to the patient. Hello, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
It is not related to the size of the fibroids or the how many fibroids are there, number of the fibroids. The dose remains the same.
Isn't it that if they are larger, bigger the size or more the number, the 25 milligram works
25.
better than the 10?
25 will be better, definitely.
Because 10 would control the symptoms, but the size would not be reduced as much.
Yeah. Yes, but we cannot give more than 25, 50, 100 like that. So we are giving that 25 only. Yeah.
Good. Very nice. Very nice.
I think that's enough.
That's enough. Thank you, Trapti.
That's all.
My
pleasure.
Files are there between 50 and 50.
Yes, all the audience who really gave these case situations.
Very lively question.
And very, very good question. And again, thank everybody because you accepted my invitation at my first call and cooperated with all the IT thing. Thank you very much. Everybody, we look forward to be associated for very, very strong for balance.
There is one question I see. Can we take one last question, ma'am? There's one somebody who's asked, will mifepristone work for cervical fibroid?
Yes.
All the fibroids.
As a preoperative, because if it is very, very difficult cervical fibroid, if you do, then it will make a surgery easy. So
reduce the fibroid. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we will do surgical management later. One more panel on surgical management.
Yeah, it requires fibroid is a big chapter. So we can talk
there are so many methods. Like when we were doing residency, it was only myomectomy, hysterectomy. Now with the technology, calculated less than 3, more than 3. So the high-tech people are maybe confused more, or maybe they need the more fineness in the thing, and that is a real question for upgrading ourselves.
Madam, what's the role of this magnetic resolution MRI?
HIFU.
So, Vidya, you will like to take anybody? Indrani, you will
HIFU. Actually, I attended a webinar on HIFU. I have not seen it myself, but here we have one scan person who also does HIFU. But the thing is, it's highly skilled, of course expensive, but highly skilled. I mean, unless you are really doing something only on HIFU, you cannot focus. In fact, I attended one of the webinars from Foxy side. And they do it as if it is so easy to do any kind of fibroid, anything. But I think it's a high specialization.
But then it also says that these both focused energies, they act on the center while the fibroids are known to grow from the periphery.
Yeah, that is the reason.
But they also claim that they do not affect the normal myometrial cells. And because just like how we give radiotherapy, focused onto the cells. So they claim that when they give focused HIFU, it only attacks the fibroid tissue or a myoma tissue and not the normal myometrium or give any damage to the myometrium. So I think it's...
And it's not recommended for patients who are desires of fertility.
Perfectly, yeah, sure.
Yeah, agreed, Indrani.
Actually, we need more experience in these procedures before we can come up with a consensus.
In obesity, in previous surgeries, it is very difficult to access also. So it is not like every person can have the advantage of so-called benefit. So obesity, previous surgery, additions, so many issues in this, and I say it is in experimental or something like it, if it is available.
At least in India, there is people abroad who do it, but I think in India we are still very
you come to know that I've been reading vigorously like since 10 years, and people abroad are more concerned what is available, like from surviving success campaign to fibroid management to infertility. They think of the economic cost and benefit.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
I think all over the world is same. Nowadays, more and more protocols everybody is following all over the world.
See, the problem in India is we have so many numbers, but our publications, documentations are relatively weak.
Documentation
and we don't boast upon. Very few we really expose ourselves.
So finally, we thank Acumentis people with all the thanks from all to support with the IT and all the support which we have, the all hassles, like in the beginning in webinar Vidya was not, and the chief guest is not allowed to attend.
No, Sadhna ji, you are the chief guest. We are just a panelist. No, that was some technical issues. Some braining was there. I tried all the gadgets.
All the doors and windows.
No, I tried all the gadgets actually.
For me
all
also,
and
I missed a part of it. I hope I have not missed much.
And
no, Trupti, but it was a nice,
and writing thing. And I'm also in it from the, and once upon a time I have a dream to have a literary laureate like Chekhov, who is a doctor and written, but OB-GYN and Foxy, and I kept that dream aside.
So I write, I'm very passionate about writing, and I get, like these last 2 weeks, I had this one, my own, the one I was arranging, and this. So if I stay away from writing, there's something inside which goes on that I have to go back. So
let's share all the good things. Savita ji is doing rural school, and Indrani is doing good work in the Shillong. We have been the tea state, and once we have this thing, the Swayambhu project for the women working in the tea gardens. So it's so wide, and every place has got its own needs, and we have to be together for doing best for them. Because we are empowered with knowledge, with skill, reaching people with the people don't have. So let's go with the very positive note. And lastly, Khushbu, I will invite you to say last departing note. Khushbu, are you here?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. No, ma'am. It is a wonderful session, and thank you so much all. And sorry for the inconvenience caused to Dr. Vidyarobi, Dr. Vijay in the start. Sorry, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful session on uterine fibroids. And we had got maximum participants I can see, and many people have logged in, and there was good question answer session as well, ma'am. Thanks a lot for being on our platform and having such a wonderful session. Thank you, Dr. Sadhna, for coordinating with me and arranging this webinar. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sadhna, for having
us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sadhna, ma'am. Thank you very much, Sadhna ji, Rashmi, Trupti, and everyone on this platform, Savita, Indrani.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you, Vidya.
Bye.
And look forward to Sadhna ma'am becoming the president.
Yes, definitely.
Really look forward.
Yes.
Doctors will send you, we will mail you the recorded link by tomorrow morning, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Photographs as well, Khushbu.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Take care, ma'am.
Bye. Take care.
Are we all there in the photograph?
Yes.
Yeah, please do. Ek abhi click kar lo.
Post on the group. Okay, bye again.
Bye.
Ma'am, एक मिनट रुको, मैं एक फोटो खींच रही हूँ अपने इससे.
खींचो.
एक सेकंड.
Smile, smile.
Smile everybody.
आ गया, मैं भी सामने देखे स्माइल कर लिया. आज तीज नहीं था किसी का? तीज हमारे यहाँ तो
मेरा तीज है.
हाँ, इवन आई एम गोइंग. मेरी सिस्टर 2 बार आ चुकी. तुम्हारा कब खत्म हो रहा है? मैं भागती हूँ. ओके, बाय मैम.
मैंने मेहंदी भी लगाई है.
अच्छा.
Is the audience out or we are just chatting like that?
Let's go. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye, bye, everybody.
और किसने?
44 audience is here. Bye.
So happy Teej to you.
Happy Teej.
Happy Teej.
And happy advance Vinayak Chaturthi.
Yeah, Vinayak Chaturthi as well. Yes.
And weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Sadhna ji, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Best of luck, Sadhna ji.
Thank you.